Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to Pre-Heresy and Codices. This is where I look at one Space Marine Legion per ramble, giving you my thoughts on what Codex or Codices would best represent that Legion in a 40k army list build, utilizing GW rules only. And then I talk a little bit about collecting that force. So up on the chopping block this time is going to be the Raven Guard Legion, the second to last Legion to be talked about. And what we can see is right off the bat, the Raven Guard Legion doesn't really have a color change pre to post heresy. Their color scheme is essentially the same. Pre to post heresy, the whole idea of the black, utilizing white trim and stuff for veterancy and all that good stuff. So the color scheme isn't really different. The one thing we really do have as a difference, however, is Unification Era. We do have a color scheme for the Unification Era look, and you can see it here. And when I first saw this, for whatever reason, I felt that it had a similar styling to what the Carcharodons have. It's not the same, but I thought it was pretty similar. And if you look at the arms, you can see kind of like tribal-esque markings, and I felt that also kind of coincided with the Carcharodons a bit, just my opinion, but clearly it's not the same exact color scheme at all. But it's a color scheme I do like, the dark gray with black and everything. So, not a bad color scheme, and if Unification Era is the thing you're collecting, that's the color scheme to go about with it. So that's the color scheme for the Raven Guard, pretty straightforward. As far as a Codex goes, there's really only one way to go in my opinion, and that is the generic Space Marine Codex. It has the Raven Guard chapter tactics, so that's going to work very well to represent the Raven Guard Legion pre-heresy. And going along with that, it has the Raven Guard special character. So having the special character Kyvan Shrike, you can do accounts as of and be just fine. So I thought that was pretty cool. And, you know, there's still restrictions for that Codex, because we're talking about a pre-heresy force utilizing a post-heresy list. So there's going to be no Land Raider, Crusader, or Redeemers, no Centurion squads, no counts as Legion of the Damned, and I'd stay away from the Flyers personally. But other than that, the entire Codex is yours to utilize, utilizing the Raven Guard chapter tactics, of course. You don't have to utilize the counts as, or doing it, you don't have to do a counts as special character Shrike, but the option is there if you want to. So there's really no better Codex in my opinion to go for these guys. That's really going to give you the feel that you're looking for. So I like that. Pretty straightforward. So that's the Codex. Now when it comes to collecting a Raven Guard force, we are talking about a pre-heresy time period, so no Mark 7 power armor at all, and Carcharodon and Tartaros pattern Terminator armor only. Now, we are talking about the Raven Guard as a legion, and typically when you see a post-heresy Raven Guard force, you're really not seeing much in the way of Terminators being utilized there. They might, but more often than not, you're not going to see that. So, really, what I'm bringing this up for is because we're talking about the Raven Guard Legion. We're talking about a time, even after the massacre, which was a massacre against them, they still had the recovery efforts in which they made their numbers bigger than a standard chapter. So they did have a bit of numbers. Even when they were devastated, they still had numbers on their side a little bit in comparison to a Space Marine chapter. So if you wanted to go a bit Terminator heavy in your collection or whatever it is, you have the ability to do that, because we are talking about the time of legions, when legions basically could do almost anything. So with that being said, still remember no Mark 7 power armor and Tartaros and Cataphracti Terminator armor only. Now on GW side of things, there isn't too much we can make use of here. Aside from, you know, the random bits here and there that you can make use of for any legion. The one thing I want to point out is the Kyvan Shrike model. I like this model. It looks good. It's got the Mark 6 pattern of armor, so it technically would be usable in a pre-heresy build. The problem would be the backpack. the jump pack backpack. It looks too much like a modern post-heresy jump pack, because it is. But I still think it's usable. You have two options. You could ditch that backpack for a more pre-heresy looking one, or because he's going to be your HQ model and the only one that basically has this jump pack, you could have it as kind of a customized jump pack that the Raven Guard have for their leaders. It's just one guy. It's suitably ornate enough that I don't think would really detract personally. That becomes more of a personal taste type of thing, but I think you could just use the model as is and be just fine with it. Now, another thing to make mention of is another post-heresy special character, this time from Forge World. You go to their 40k section of their site, you'll find a Raven Guard special character, I believe Shadow Captain Corvidae, and he has a jump pack and a Thunderhammer. And his model looks really cool. And if you want to run an HQ basically equipped that way, he looks really good and will fit the bill. However, he also has a standard looking jump pack, but his is also a little bit ornate and everything. So this is another case where I say, hey, this is your HQ, it'll make him stand out, just go with it. But that really is up to you. It depends on how you feel about those particular looks when it comes to your pre-heresy, Horus Heresy era collection. But I wanted to make special mention of those two special character models because I think both will work for you if you don't mind the backpacks. For your regular guys, you definitely want to go with a pre-heresy looking backpack, but I figure, that's one way to make your HQ stand out is to utilize those backpacks that come on those models. But that's up to the person who will be collecting this force. So with that being said, there's not too much else to go with GW side of things. On Forge World side of things, we do have some stuff that they already made for the Raven Guard, which works for the pre-heresy time period, which is why they have it listed here. And we have a Raven Guard Venerable Dreadnought model for your standard Mark IV Dreadnought look. And it looks very cool, definitely is going to work for you as a standard Dreadnought. So that's one option. You also have Raven Guard Spaceman Upgrade Pack, which is basically going to make Mark VI guys. Now this comes with a decent amount of bits, so you can definitely spread those bits out across more than just one 5-man squad. You can definitely spread those bits out across your entire force and really have, instead of one super Raven Guard looking 5-man squad, you can have a bunch of Raven Guard bits dispersed amongst your powered armor collection and have the army as a whole feel a bit more Raven Guardy because of it. So that's up to you. There's Land Raider and Rhino doors, which are nice, and I guess you could say the first real proper Horus Heresy model would be the Raven Guard Legion Contemptor Dreadnought, because the other stuff's already existed, but this is something that was made new, and this is a Raven Guard Legion Contemptor, and I like it. It's subtle. It's a very subtle Dreadnought and its details and whatnot, but it's definitely a Raven Guard look, and I like the look of it. So you can use this and make it just count as a regular Dreadnought in your 40k army list build, and especially if you plan to build a 30k army list from Forge World's books and you want a Contemptor, then this would be the model to go with, obviously because it's a Contemptor, and you can run it as a regular Dreadnought in 40k and people shouldn't have a problem. But we do have a regular Raven Guard Dreadnought if you really want to have your standard Dreadnought look like a standard Dreadnought. So that's your Contemptor. Now, two things that we do have already that work well for the Legion, and I'm glad to see it, are brass etchings and a Raven Guard transfer sheet. These two things are great to have. They're great to have because they're going to be able to make your generic models look very Raven Guardy. Your vehicles have more of a Raven Guard fit and finish to them. The brass etch is nice. The brass etching, I should say, is nice, but the decal sheet's even better. That Raven Guard transfer sheet's huge. The Forge World transfer sheets are a bit bigger than an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, so you're getting loads of transfers. You can have plenty you need, or plenty more than you'll need, I should say, for your Raven Guard Legion collection. And if you play Raven Guard post-heresy, you should pick up that transfer sheet anyway, because it's really nice to have. So, really glad to see that. But that's really it for what we have to collect for the Raven Guard at the moment. It's going to be the Forge World show like it typically tends to be for the Legions. But even with that being said, we don't have the full Raven Guard collection out there yet. They're missing their Primarch, which won't really help us in a post-Heresy armorless build for Pre-Heresy Force, but it's still a cool model to look at nonetheless. So we're still waiting on that. And we're going to be waiting on some special unit models for sure, probably, and maybe even another special character model. But we're definitely waiting on the rest of the Raven Guard collection for the Pre-Heresy time period from Forge World. So when that happens, I'll be redoing this Legion, like I will be redoing the other Legions that are waiting for their model range as well. But anyways, that's basically it for the Raven Guard. So thanks for sticking through it. And the next Legion to talk about will be the final Legion, which is the Alpha Legion. So stay tuned for that one. And until next time, take it easy.